Oh, there we go. Okay, welcome everybody. So to the session, how you can manage your landscape authorizations connectivity to managed components with SAP Cloud ALM. My name is Andrea Schumann. I'm the product manager for landscape management in SAP Cloud ALM and also the product manager for LMDB, simple system integration, and cloud service management in SAP Focused Run. Today I want to talk mainly about Cloud ALM. We will definitely mention Focused Run because these two products work very close and very well together. The first, always have to say this, always have to show this, whatever you see in this presentation, whatever you see in the system, it's basically just a disclaimer that also whatever I promise you here, it could happen that SAP says, no, you don't. So, yeah. But what are we talking about today? First, I want to give you an overview of our landscape management. Well, landscape management might be a little bit boring. I mean, what is it really? A list of systems? It's a little bit more, but I want to show you also where do we get our systems from? How can you get your systems into landscape management? How can you, for example, also combine customer numbers, etc. Then I want to talk about our newest feature, the attribute-based access control, something that we have been working on for a very long time, and we released it in July. So it is fairly new. If we have time at the end, I would even show a demo for this. In the third section, I would like to talk about a little bit about managed services and systems. Basically, how can you connect them? What is the life cycle of a system? So basically, what we get a lot is the question, so why can I not delete my system? Something I also want to answer just by explaining how our life cycle works. And then last but not least, I want to give you an outlook. What have we planned for this year? What have we planned for 2025 and later? Okay, so let's get started with the overview. So landscape management, it is a core component in Cloud ALM. As you know, the main commodity of Cloud ALM is systems, your managed services and systems, your system landscape. And this means that in our landscape management, well, pretty much everything comes together. So you can have services, cloud services, you can have technical systems in landscape management. What you can also do is you can group them together in what we call business services, and also this is all stored in landscape management. Bottom line is that basically any SAP Cloud ALM capability or any use case that in any way deals with cloud services or with landscape objects, in the end depends on our landscape management. So first, let me talk a little bit about the landscape data transfer. So here we have Cloud ALM sitting here in the middle, and then we have basically different data sources. We have data sources, basically data. This is landscape data which is owned by SAP. Yeah. So this is basically, for example, our cloud services. Yeah, the cloud services, cloud tenants, all this information basically is owned by SAP. The same goes for enterprise cloud services. Yeah, RISE landscape data of private cloud systems which are run by the enterprise cloud services are basically also owned by SAP. We have the landscape information service. This is basically, we have this for a very long time. This is where all your on-premise systems basically end up in. Yeah, so if you have Solution Manager, Focused Run, or maybe do a direct upload, basically all your on-premise information is in the landscape information service. Yeah? This is what you need, for example, if you want to update your software. Yeah? This is where this information comes from. And then we have customer-owned landscape data. This is, for example, your on-premise system. Yeah? So yes, they are in the landscape information system, but technically, they're owned by you. So you have this information. And then we also have customer private cloud. This is basically, let's say you have your systems in AWS, not run by enterprise cloud services, but by somebody else. This would be a private customer private cloud. So how do we get the data? All our cloud tenants So as soon as you subscribe to a cloud service, a tenant is basically the data collector creates a tenant in the cloud landscape directory. This is our backend. This is where we have all the information for all the cloud services that every customer has from SAP, obviously only SAP cloud services. What we also have in the cloud landscape directory is basically everything that is the private cloud systems. Yeah, all the private cloud systems originate more or less in the cloud landscape directory. They have a sync between the enterprise cloud services, and the enterprise cloud services, they run focused run. Yeah, they use focused run for the monitoring of the whole huge landscape. And so all the systems register in the focused run, and this then gets uploaded into the landscape information service. I hope I have not completely lost you yet, because I'm not done. But what you have now here in these two directories is basically all the landscape data that you can have for SAP-owned landscape data. What do we do with this? For one, we provide it to SAP for Me. So when you go into SAP for Me, you see all your systems. You see all your private cloud systems. You can provision systems from there, which then basically creates a loop, if you will. You can run your software updates from there, etc. So this all goes into SAP for Me, but it also, at least for the cloud landscape directory, goes into SAP Cloud ALM. So what we do automatically, as soon as your Cloud ALM tenant is provisioned, we download all cloud services that are supported by Cloud ALM in any way, download this into your landscape management. So you don't have to worry about this. You don't have to worry about how do I get my cloud services into landscape management. Happens automatically. And then we have the other direction, is basically the question, how do I get my on-premise systems into Cloud ALM? Right now, you do this via the push registration. Same for the customer private cloud. And also, this is new, because you see, there is no solution manager here anymore. So how do we get this information in the landscape information service? This basically can be done. This is done together with the push registration. So when you perform the push registration, we automatically also set up this landscape data transfer in the landscape information service. This is why we do not necessarily need solution manager anymore. You might need it for other things, but for landscape data, we're good. So you can also get this data out. If you have a customer CMDB, you can actually get this information via our public API pull. The next slide is basically pretty much the same, so I will be a little bit quicker here. The only difference here is we also have SAP Focused Run. SAP Focused Run, for those who do not know what it is a monitoring application. It's an on-premise system, yeah, which you can use to really run operations in your system. It has a fantastic system monitoring. It has also a lot of other use cases that are close to also Cloud ALM. But yeah, if you have on-premise systems that you want to monitor, especially after 2027, Focused Run is what you want. So I'm going to be a little bit quicker here. See, most of the things are pretty much the same. The only difference is if you have a RISE system or if you have a private cloud system run by the enterprise cloud services, it will automatically register in the focused run of the customer, in your focused run. So you don't have to worry about how do I get the system in my SAP focused run. Again, we provide this information to SAP for Me. And then we have the landscape import into Cloud ALM, and we synchronize this information of these cloud services also down into SAP Focused Run. So if you have SAP Focused Run, you still won't want to have a Cloud ALM alone to automatically get your cloud services, and also we have some use cases which are only available in Cloud ALM. And then here, in this case, we have the registration in the LMDB of SAP Focused Run, from where we then do the landscape data transfer. And again, if you have public APIs here. You will get the slides. If you have any questions, feel free to send me an email. I know this is a lot of information. Okay, so now the question that I always get is, well, what are you importing from CLD? I mean, seriously. Like when I look into SAP for me, I see some cloud services, but they are not in Cloud ALM. Other way around. Basically, what we import into Cloud ALM is anything that is either supported by a use case in Cloud ALM or sends downtime notifications. Yeah? So basically, we usually do not import cloud services that we cannot do anything with. So we also have a link here to all the supported services and system types. Which cloud services do we support? We automatically support everything that is under the same customer number as the Cloud ALM is provisioned under. If you now are a customer who says, well, I have subsidiaries, and I basically I provision Cloud ALM under customer number A, but my cloud services are partly also living under my subsidiaries customer number B. How do I get this in Cloud ALM? This is also possible. You can use what we call the corporate group function to import also these systems and services. What is the corporate group function? It's basically, it allows you to group your subsidiaries together. So what does this mean? If you have a parent company, what we call Global Ultimate, and this parent company has several subsidiaries, yeah? Then you can use this corporate group function. This is not a Cloud ALM function. It's very important. It's not Cloud ALM. It's actually, if you look here, I put the information node in here. So here is the node that gives you all the information and also the links to how you can create a new corporate group function, etc. But basically what you do is you link your services, or you link your companies together in a corporate group, and then you can use this corporate group capability to import all your customer numbers in one Cloud ALM. Very important, because I have seen otherwise, if you're an SAP partner or a value-added reseller, you must not link your end customers in your customer group. That's not allowed. As I said, I've seen it, but it's not, you're not supposed to do that. So, okay. Then we already talked about tenant extensions, so this might be also interesting if you are thinking about getting an additional Cloud ALM. So you heard in the keynote, and I think also Nicola already gave his presentation during the summit, that it will be possible to get a second Cloud ALM under the same customer number. Now the question is, well, what happens to the landscape data? Well, what will happen is all the customer systems that we import into the standard tenant, we also import those into the additional Cloud ALM tenants. So right now, unfortunately, it is not possible to have a selective import. Everything will basically go everywhere. How can I control this visibility? As I already said, yeah, everything, all your customer systems with the same customer number go into into additional Cloud ALM tenant as well. You can use the access control, which I have in my next chapter, or in my next section, to actually control which user sees which tenants. So you could, in theory, go have different access control lists in the different Cloud ALM tenants and then control what everybody sees. Yeah, I will explain this in detail in a moment. And here again is the corporate group function where you can combine your customer numbers. Very quick, what's new? Attribute-based access control. As I said, we released this in July. And I will talk about this in the next section. What we currently are working on is setup automation for SAP S/4HANA Cloud. Right now, there is a manual setup necessary, and we are working on automating this so that you can basically trigger this setup right out of landscape management. What else? What we are also working on are customer business units. What does this mean? We have some customers where every single cloud tenant is under the same customer number. This means they have thousands of cloud tenants under the same customer number, and then they told me, basically, Andrea, you know, we we have different business units. We have maybe teams in EMEA, we maybe have the finance team, we have the sales and services team, and we want to separate them. We want to separate the visibility for the users, but if we do this we can do it with the customer number, and it's really a lot of effort to do it one by one. So we basically working currently on a concept where you basically can define your business units, and then you can assign systems to these business units, and then use these business units in the access control. Yeah? So basically say, okay, this user belongs to the finance department, so they can only see the systems which belong to the finance department business unit. And we also currently work on an improved import of RISE and SAP ECS managed systems, so that we not only have the information that there is a system, but that we also can tell you what app servers does it have, CPU, memory, what database, etc., so that you have the full picture of your systems which are managed by ECS. Okay, let me get to attribute-based access control. I've mentioned this several times, and as I said, we rolled it out. What is it? So basically, what you currently have, or what you had in Cloud ALM, were roles that you assigned in user management. And with these roles, you could, for example, decide, okay, this person has access to landscape management, this person has access to health monitoring, this person has access to business process monitoring. You could also decide, for example, well, the person here can also maybe activate configuration health monitoring, or they could only look like they'd only display only access. But what you could not control with these roles is which systems can somebody see. Yeah? Which systems can somebody see in health monitoring? Everybody that had access to health monitoring could always see everything. And this, for bigger companies, is a problem. So what we build now is basically an attribute-based access control. This means you can define, and I show you, well, yeah, I get to this on the next slide. So basically what we did is, we built a concept that is called an access control list. This access control list has rules. For example, you can build a list that contains all systems that belong to customer number A. Or you can build a list that contains all Ariba systems that belong to customer A. Or you can build a list that contains all systems that have a certain string in the name. Maybe you have a naming convention or something like this for your sub-accounts or for your cloud tenants. And then, once you have this list, it's like a bucket. You have to think of it as, you know, toddlers, they have these buckets, and these buckets have lids, and on these lids you have like patterns. So you have a pattern with a star, and you have a pattern with a square, and then you can basically, the kid can then put its little stones into the bucket depending on the shape. Pretty much similar to this. So you have a bucket, and you define rules which systems can go in this bucket. And once you have done this, you now assign which users can see what's in the bucket. Basically, so you say, okay, user 1 can see all systems which are in bucket A. They cannot see the systems which are in bucket B. Now this is basically what you do in landscape management. And right now, health monitoring already uses access control. Other use cases will follow. Now I often get the question, well, why did you roll it out already? If not everybody has it, well, we actually were thinking about this, so it's not that we did this willy-nilly. In the end, access control, it's not necessarily not dangerous, I will say. So you can actually lock yourself out pretty easily if you want to. And if somebody goes in and does something that locks other people out. But, I mean, in the end, we wanted to give you time. We wanted to give you the time in landscape management to go ahead, define your access control lists, define which users is on which access control list, test this whole thing, while our use cases work on basically integrating it. Yeah. So it's basically just that you have more time, because if you roll it out all at once, then it would have taken longer. You wouldn't have it yet. So yeah, that's basically the reason, if you will. But the plan is obviously that all other use cases that also deal with landscape objects eventually will inherit access control. We will even have use case specific access control lists so that you have additional possibilities to restrict in other use cases other than only the systems. For example, in business process monitoring, you already have additional possibilities to restrict. So this is what it looks like. As I said, if I have the time, I definitely will show a very short demo. But basically, here's where you define your lists. You basically have here your rules. You can maintain your rules. You have a preview so that you can always test what systems are in this bucket. So you don't have to go in blind. It would be annoying if you had to. So we build a preview in. You can do the same for business services. And then you can assign a user. You can actually, at least for LMS, currently you can define if a user can read or can edit a system. For example, it is possible that you have an access control list for user A, where he can only access the systems in display mode. This means he cannot create endpoints, he cannot create a description, he cannot add tags, he cannot change the business unit. And then you can have systems on another access control list for the same user, where he can actually have change access. That gives you an additional possibility to define, okay, this user needs to know the system exists, and he maybe even needs details, but he doesn't need to touch it. Yeah? What we also built in, this is mainly important, well, not only for testing, but as I said, when you go into landscape management, and you will see the access control. It's basically, it's in the configuration. You need to have the access controller role to see this. So if you go into your landscape management and you don't see it, it doesn't mean it's not there. It only means you're missing an authorization. The thing is, if you turn this on, you get a lot of warnings. I think you get 2 warnings that tell you, do not turn it on without maintaining your access control lists, because you cannot turn it off again. Why did we do this? Again, security, because you don't want people to just go in and turn it on and off. I mean, why maintain all your authorizations if somebody can just go in and be like, this kind of doesn't suit me, let me turn it off. We don't want that. But what we still also don't want, we don't want to lock you out. That would be bad. So what you can do is, if you're an access controller, you can actually decide for single users to basically to deactivate access control for single users. Also, before you globally activate it, you can already have your test users, create your access control lists, you assign your test users, and then you activate access control only for your test user. Make sure everything is fine, and then eventually you take the plunge. If you drown, I guess you open a ticket. But yeah, you don't. So, okay. So what is planned? So we already have some plans. Obviously, we also will provide a system-wide processing log. We already log everything that happens. We just don't have a nice UI to show it to you yet. So it is all written, like from the moment you activate access control, we log everything. We just don't have a nice UI yet, but this will come. Also, we want to provide a check that allows you to basically make sure all my access control is sound, in the sense of if you have a business service which contains services and systems, make sure that all the services and systems from this business service are also part of your access control. We want to make it a little bit visual. We wanted to make it a little visually more pleasing, so there are some things that we made a little bit nicer. But there are more enhancements. So for example, we would want to provide consistency checks. We would like to enable the assignment of API users and IAS groups. Obviously provide additional rules, and so on. So there are certain things that we plan. I have 5 minutes left. Well, there we go. Do my best for a demo. Okay. Very quickly, why can I not delete my ABAP system if I don't need it anymore? I did RISE and now I have a new system. I want to delete my old system. You have no idea how many tickets I get. Every month, the customers asking me exactly that. Well, it starts basically when you have a new landscape management, when you have a new object in landscape management, it has a status new. Then you get in and you activate a monitoring in a monitoring use case, and then it will go into status active. You maybe say, I don't have the system anymore, right system, new system, better. So you stop the monitoring, and now your landscape object is inactive. And you still cannot delete it. That's not fair. Well, actually this has something to do with, compliance and liability. You first have to remove the configuration. Once you remove the configuration, your landscape object will go back into status new, and then, if you do a system cleanup, everything that was manually created or registered can be deleted once it's new. Why do I say manually and registered in fat letters? Because there are also cloud services that we get automatically from SLIS. For those, you can still not delete them when they are on the status new. You first have to unsubscribe. Yeah. So, as long as you have subscribed the cloud service, you cannot delete it from landscape management. Yeah. Once you have unsubscribed, it will all happen pretty much automatically. Yeah. It will trigger a deletion request, which then will delete the system with the next SLIS sync. Okay. How can I see which use cases are still active? I mean, you have probably seen this. For all the systems, we have here supported use cases where you can always see what is active, what is not configured, and what is the runtime status. Right now, it is still so. Unfortunately, you still have to go into the system or into the use case itself to deactivate it. Basically, almost the last slide before the outlook. Setup of managed services and systems. Here, I wanted to give you an overview because you have a lot of different setup types. And I wanted to a little bit group them by effort. The easiest setup, and I'm always shocked when I notice how few customers use that, is you know that SAP, when you have a cloud service, they send you downtime notifications. So when your system is down, we know, because we run it. So what we do is, we send you a notification, hey, sorry, your system is down. We know we are working on it. And Cloud ALM does know this too. All you have to do is take your systems and put them in a business service and business service management. And you get this. Okay? The second lowest effort, if you will, is, actually, I think these two are pretty much both super low effort. A lot of the new cloud services, a lot of the new cloud products that we integrate with Cloud ALM use our OpenTelemetry at SAP infrastructure. It is an SAP managed connectivity, which is pretty awesome for the customers because basically all you have to do is go into the use case and turn the monitoring on. Boom. Works, okay? The next effort is the push data collection. This is our old setup. What you have to do is basically, in this case, you have to set up the connectivity, and then the cloud service or the technical system will push the monitoring data towards Cloud ALM. So usually you have to do a few prerequisites. It's all documented, by the way, here in our SAP Cloud ALM for Operations Export portal. So you can go in there, find your service type, have a look at the documentation, and and perform the setup. We also support the OpenTelemetry for customer build applications. So basically, if you build an own application, you can also turn on the monitoring. What you have to do there is you have to do some instrumentation, so that you actually get this information into Cloud ALM. And last but not least, the pull data collection. This is something we still need endpoints, so it's a little bit more effort. Basically, you have to make sure you have some user or some certificate or whatever at the other end that we can actually call and receive the monitoring information. Last but not least, integration with SAP Focused Run. I know that we have a lot of customers, big customers, that will eventually want or need Focused Run. As I already said, Cloud ALM and Focused Run work very well together. They come basically, if you will, as a package deal. And what we do is we use Cloud ALM basically as a reverse proxy for metrics which are coming from cloud services into SAP Focused Run. The advantage is you really only need to set up the whole connectivity, because you know, if you want to reach an on-premise systems from the cloud, you always need a cloud connector to get in there. Yeah. So to avoid that, you have to set this up for every single cloud service. You set it up once for Cloud ALM. Cloud ALM then sends all this information. Basically, you set up the monitoring for your cloud services towards Cloud ALM, and Cloud ALM distributes this information then down to SAP Focused Run. It's what you do for cloud services, very important. Anything on-premise, private cloud, like anything that you have, all your RISE systems, etc. This all is still managed via the on-premise connectivity of SAP Focused Run, yeah, via the host agent. So, I think my time is up. It definitely stopped running, so it means it's over. Yeah, so here, short outlook. As I said, we are working on the import of SAP ECS managed systems, RISE systems, private cloud systems managed by ECS, the customer business units, and the setup automation. As I said, we also want to improve little bit the transparency, add several checks into access control. We also we're working currently on the support for certificate-based authentication for SAP ABAP on-premise and private cloud systems. No, actually, yeah, on-premise. On-premise systems. And also, we are working on, for everybody who has FRAN, we are working on syncing additional properties from Cloud ALM to Focused Run, and also want to improve the handling of customers that basically move Cloud ALM from one customer to another. And then later on in 2025, obviously, we work on rolling out access control to other monitoring use cases. This will happen. We also will plan to build consistency and analysis features for access control. We want to support the sharing of endpoints where it's technically possible. Yeah, so right now, for example, if you have Ariba and they are all run, like maybe you have Ariba sourcing, you maybe have Ariba network and the managed business managed network for spend and managed gateway for spend and network. That's the name. And they are all living in the same data center. So in theory, you're creating the same endpoints 3 times. This is something we want to address. We want to make this easier for you so that you can actually share endpoints, for example, also for S/4HANA Cloud, yeah? Not for S4, sorry, for SAP HANA Cloud. There we also want to enable this. Yeah, we work on sync and search features for the tags. And yes, we will also want to integrate access control with external IDM applications. Yeah, this is also something we have on the agenda. Yeah, and then some more things that are a little bit further out, but yeah, so that's basically it. I didn't show a demo, mainly because I had so much to say. Sorry. Do you have any questions? And if you have questions, if you don't have questions, I show a demo, because we have 10 minutes left. But if you prefer to ask questions, go for it. I think Nobody? You all want to see a demo? Okay, figured. Okay. So, then, let me do that. Okay. Okay, let's do that then. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I unfortunately caught two-factor authentication, and it's really hard to get rid again. Actually, you can't. So, okay. Okay, good. Yeah, so, as I said, I would like to demo access control. I think this is something that might be interesting for everybody. As I said, the first thing that you have to make sure in access control, most important thing is you need the role landscape management access controller. You see, not many people have this because it's very easy to break things. So be careful with that role. So once you have this role, and you now go to landscape management, you will find here a new area. Let me make this smaller. So here, there is an area, it's called attribute-based access control. You see it's currently off, as I said. If you turn it on, I will not turn it on, at least I will, you see there are a lot of warnings. It really makes sure that you don't turn it on accidentally. So if anybody says, oops, I turned it on accidentally, ask them how they got accidentally through all these warnings. Okay. Yeah. And then you probably open a ticket. But yeah, so. Okay, so here we go. So now here, as I said, you have different rules. Right now, in the current release, we have the service type. Yeah, so for example, you can start typing here. Oops. Here we go. So here, Ariba sourcing. What do I have? Oh, 2 systems. Okay. You can also add, for example, here the customer number. You can add the services and the system name. Very important. If you have more than one access rule, it is basically combined with logical end. So basically, if you add the customer number, the system has to be from the customer number and the service type. Only then it will be part of the rule. I know this can be a little bit problematic, especially when you say, well, actually, I have here my team from customer A. They are responsible for managing Ariba, but they actually use a CPI, which belongs to another customer number. So hence, we need this also as part of this access control list. This is why you can also add single landscape objects. So basically, you can add single objects inside this access control list. That's what I did just here, and there we go. There they are. As I said, you can also add business services. You can include all business services, or you can also use rules for business services in this access control list. And this is now a very simple one. You see, it's only 4 systems. And now I can assign users. So here, you can either add them by selection. You can say, okay, this is what I will do is I will just add them by selection. So here we are. You can also decide, as I said, do you want to allow this user to view only or to read, to write, or change the landscape management objects? I give me read only. What you can also do is you have a mass entry. So if you have a list of email addresses from a team, you can separate them by semicolon and you can add them here. The only prerequisite is they already have the existing Cloud ALM. That's the only thing. Yeah, so we don't create users, which we shouldn't, because that's user management. Okay, so we have this, we save. And now, well, I still see everything. So, yeah. As you can see here, I can still see everything. Mainly because right now it's inactive. So what I do now to test, because I now want to test this, I basically go here, go to my user. I remove this one, this is the one from yesterday. A user can have more than one access control list, obviously, right? You can have more than one access control list, and you also can have different access authorizations. You can have, for some systems you have edit access, for other systems you have only read access. And now I turn on access control for my user. So, now you will see is that I don't see all that much anymore. Yeah? So I you can see Ariba sourcing. And then, yeah, here I can see focused run. And that's pretty much it. The nice thing is also in the scope selector, now I can only select what I have actually access to. So I cannot just access anything. Also works on my favorites, right? So I can't access those anymore neither. And also here, I cannot see anything, even if I now search for a system. And okay, this is, I know the system exists, so, but I can't find it anymore. Yeah? So this is basically how it actually restricts the systems. As I said, right now, this is only activated for landscape management and health monitoring. As I said, we wanted to make sure that you have time to actually build and test this. The other use cases will follow. So that's definitely planned. The other use cases will also be part of access control. So, and then, oh magic or wonder, there we go. I thought, there it is. So now I can see everything again. Okay, this was a very short demo for access control. Apart from this, well, what is landscape management? It's a list of systems, right? So if you have any questions, still no questions. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Thank you. What is about the consideration how to cluster transport routes in a hybrid scenario? I know it's not effective, let's say, but from the planning perspective, you have something in the private cloud, you have something as a service, the BTP or whatever, and you have to have a landscape which is
So I'm searching
traceable.
The crowd because I'm hoping that somebody from Cloud ALM Transport Management is here.
Moritz is Moritz.
Moritz is not here because
Stephen.
So, unfortunately, nobody from the transport management, from the Cloud ALM build area is here. So for business, so they currently don't use business services in landscape management. They have their own. They have it's called a system landscape. No, the project landscape is what it's called. That's what they use. Eventually, they hopefully will also move into our business services. I take the question. I don't know if you already asked this question to to Moritz.
Not yet. I haven't seen it until yet. So,
okay. Okay. So yes. So right now, transport routes are not part of landscape management. So we right now don't have it here. In the future, hopefully.
I don't think it's let's say, if you have something like a cluster, which you call business units, and you can dedicate it to finance, for example.
Yeah.
And they have, let's say, subscribed some services.
Uh-huh.
Where you have to have a kind of transport route, you have to combine it.
I mean, yes. So basically, what you can do is you create a business unit, finance, and you assign all the services and systems that belong to the finance team to this business unit. And once they actually start using, right now they are somewhat integrated with landscape management, obviously, because they have landscape objects. But once we work on a deeper integration, this is definitely something. They will have access to this business units, and they can use this information. But I will take this question, and I will talk to, or will bring it to Moritz. Okay. Other questions? Yes. I think she wants to.
My understanding, if I got it correctly, is like if you activate this access control list feature, then you need to selectively grant access.
Mm-hmm.
Is there also some ideas or possibilities to do it the other way around, that you selectively restrict access to certain landscapes?
No.
Will it come? Maybe
No.
thoughts about it?
Well, this would be the other way around. I mean, it is like ABAP. It's basically, I don't know, negative or positive. It's a one-directional authorization concept. So you initially have access to nothing, and then you are granted access to more. It's not that you have access to everything and we say, but you can see this, this, and this. So that's not the direction we work.
Okay.
It's more, it's a way of looking at it, I know what you mean, but in general we say you cannot see anything, and then we give you access to something.
Is there some possibility to do like, okay, define one access control list that would still grant everyone
Yes.
for everything?
Yes.
And then I can do it more specific to a certain...
No, you always get the maximum. So basically, if you have a user who is on an access control list that has access to everything, you cannot take it away from him. The only way is to take him from this list and put him on one with restricted access. Sorry.
That's a pity. Actually,
Sorry.
when you have 1,000 systems and you just want to make sure that for one certain landscape you want to be more strict with it, then it's just not possible, right?
No, not in this. Oh, yeah, give it, he has ideas. This is, Janko always knows.
Sorry for saying something.
No, go for it, it's perfect.
At the end, what we can resolve it at is at UI level. I mean, the result will be a positive list, this is clear, but we could theoretically say in a UI you can say, okay, please put in this list everything but these systems. So, and then the result will be a positive list, but we achieve exactly at UI level what you like to achieve. Because at the end, it's just a question of mass maintenance, right?
Yeah,
what you like to resolve. And
Exactly.
with an appropriate UI, we should be capable to do so.
Yeah. For example, via business
So this
unit.
negative thing we have to do in the UI, long story short.
Exactly.
Okay.
So maybe via business units, that you have a business unit where only your restricted systems are, and then all other systems you put in the other business unit, and then you can restrict via this. So we can talk, if you want, you have my email, I'm pretty sure. We can set up a call and we can, play ball with ideas and see how we can do this. No, that's always good.
I think it might come also into the game when you're thinking making use of such concepts in implementation. Because actually I had a discussion quite some time back with Moritz about access control lists, and we want to achieve that if in implementation you have a role like a change manager role, we want to make sure that he will not be allowed to do change manager things on every system line, but only on the one he's a change manager in that project. And for that we would need something like positive lists. I know that access control lists are not available in implementation or used in implementation yet, but yeah, I will get in contact with you.
Okay. Yeah, last question. Anybody interested in a last question? Okay.
I just wanted to know, so for the applications that we will onboard through open telemetry, let's say for real user monitoring part, so will it be possible also to segregate accesses based on constraints like, okay, only this application is something that we can segregate for the users based on attributes?
This is so it would be use case specific, right? It would
Yeah.
be, so we are discussing this, and we have not yet made a final decision if and how we will do this, but we are working on. Also, it's not only real user monitoring, obviously, there are other use cases as well that say we need additional restrictions to landscape objects. So yeah, so there's definitely discussions ongoing. So yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, guys. Okay.